Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here in a few minutes. We're going to give everybody a little bit of time to get in and get going. So once we have a few folks in here joining us, we will get started. So hang tight, have a little bit more coffee, maybe another bagel, and we'll get going here in just a few minutes. Okay, thank you all for coming in. We'll get started here in a few minutes. Um, we're going to go through a few updates, what's going on here at BikeWalkKC, and then we will do some Q&A. We'll take your questions, answer them as best we can, and find out more about what's going on with you and how things are going for you during this pandemic. So hang tight. We'll get started here in just a minute. Okay, so let's get going. My name is Eric Rogers. I'm the executive director at BikeWalkKC, and just wanted to say good morning to everybody. Thanks for joining us. Give you a little bit of an overview of how things are going to go here on this event. First of all, we'll go through some updates with the programs that BikeWalkKC is working on. Give you an update on what we're doing, some ways you can get involved, even remotely. We'll talk about some of the upcoming events we have going on and some opportunities for you to participate. And then we'll take your questions and do the best as we can to answer them. So again, I said, my name is Eric Rogers, I'm the executive director at BikeWalkKC. And even though our office is closed, like many places around the country, we are still working. We're working really hard to advocate for walking and biking, to provide services and programs as best we can virtually. Normally, many of us would have just seen each other yesterday at what was supposed to be the 10th annual Tour de Beer bike ride, which is our big fundraiser that helps support our advocacy and education work. Unfortunately, that event got postponed. We're currently planning to hold the Tour de Beer on August 9th. So we will continue to monitor the conditions here in Kansas City and give you guys updates as they come along. So I'm going to jump in with some other updates, kind of what we've been working on the last couple months. I'm going to start with our education program. So we normally serve about 5,000 to 7,000 kids every year around the Kansas City region, delivering bike safety programs and safe routes to school programs in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools all around the region. That work, of course, is a little bit on pause while schools are closed. We also do a lot of adult programming that serves hundreds of adults every year, and those are going virtual. So what we've been doing the last couple of months, our education team has been really hard at work, taking all of that in-person education and those classes and clinics and figuring out how to deliver those online. The last few weeks, we've been experimenting with delivering online classes to kids at some of the elementary schools around the region. We started out at Grant Elementary in KCK in the USD 500 district, and we've slowly been adding other schools. We're scheduling those programs through local schools at this point, and so if you're a teacher, a PE teacher, or someone else involved at a school that might be interested in some of our virtual programming, please reach out and let us know. We're also starting to post some on-demand videos on our YouTube channel. So with some quick lessons, things about how to say, fix a flat tire, do some quick bike maintenance. Those are increasingly available on YouTube. So please check those out as well. And stay tuned as we move more public programming online for everybody to access. We've also been working a lot with the Wyandotte County Health Department on a project called Move Your Way. We are highlighting a lot of community partners in Wyandotte County and KCK who are working on active living, healthy living, and to promote things that are going on in the community. So we're also posting some videos specifically to KCK. So also check those out when you have a chance. Next up is our Ride KC bike program, our regional bike share program that we operate in partnership with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. We've been open for business and providing rides all throughout the pandemic. We've been doing a lot of extra cleaning and sanitizing so that the bikes are clean and safe for everybody. We've also been really happy to be able to support our essential workers in Kansas City by providing free rides for folks who are in healthcare and need to get to work. We're also providing free loans of e-bikes for local businesses. So many of those businesses like breweries and restaurants are moving to offer delivery services as a way to keep going. And so we're happy to provide free e-bikes for any local business that wants to try that out. And coming into this year, we were planning on several expansions of our bike share system, partnering with the Johnson County Parks Department, the city of Lenexa, and then the unified government in KCK and Wyandotte County. And so we have several expansions of the bike share system into Kansas on the way. As with everything these days, timelines and schedules are up in the air. So we don't have a lot of dates yet, but just to say, stay tuned. We'll be excited to announce those expansions when we can, hopefully later this year. Finally, on our program updates, I want to talk about our advocacy and public policy work. We've had two big developments so far this year, even during the pandemic. And I want to give a big shout out to all of our partners who have helped us out. Groups like LISC and KC Healthy Kids, the Kansas City Regional Transit Alliance, Better Block, KC for Safe Streets, Sunrise Movement, several neighborhood associations, and many more that I can list here today. But they've helped us secure two big things so far this year. The first was open streets, or as some are calling them, slow streets in KCMO, at least to start with. So we were very excited after working for a few weeks with city staff and elected officials that the city council did create a new policy of open streets to give people more room to be outside, to get exercise and recreation while being physically distant from each other. And so they've introduced a few options. There have been a few places where the city has closed roads adjacent to parks, so like along Gilliam Park in Midtown or Loose Park. They've also closed some streets within parks to give people more room inside of parks, especially at Swope Park and some other parks around the area. And then they've created a program to let residents close their own streets and blocks to through traffic. So the city already had a block party permit in place, and they have since adapted that to allow folks just to close their own block to through traffic to provide a little bit more space beyond the front yard and beyond the sidewalk. And so if you're in Kansas City, Missouri, and you're interested in that, reach out to us and we can help you get some resources for that. We also have at BikeWalkKC a traffic calming library of things we can lend to you. So cones and bollards and things like that to help close off your street. I also want to make sure people understand that we're talking about closing streets to local traffic only. So folks that live on that street can still get in and out. Especially important these days is delivery drivers, Amazon, DoorDash, restaurant deliveries can also still get into your street. But it's meant to slow things down and give a little bit more room. The second big policy development this spring so far has been Vision Zero. Last week, the KCMO City Council adopted a resolution to have a goal to create a Vision Zero policy for the city, which is the idea that all traffic fatalities are preventable and can be prevented. And it takes a really multi-dimensional approach to traffic safety, draws a lot on lessons from public health. And so over the summer and into the fall, the city is going to work on drafting that policy to take back to the city council. And so you should be able to look for opportunities to be involved in the next few months as public participation starts happening and then get input into the Vision Zero policy that will be developed. And I want to give a special thank you to some of the victims of traffic violence and the family members and survivors of victims who gave really passionate testimony at City Hall over the last several months and have been really engaged with the elected officials, especially Lori Brown, who is the mother of Anthony Saludo, and Charlene Hill, who's the grandmother of Ezreal Hill. And then to each of you individually, if you wrote a letter or sent public testimony or showed up at City Hall in the previous times, thank you. Your letters and calls and emails were definitely important in these two developments. So those are both specific to KCMO, but we are in a lot of conversations with other communities around the region. And if you're in one of those suburban communities and you're interested in some of these things in your own community, reach out to us and we can chat about what's going on and how you could help us make progress in the rest of the Kansas City region. So those are the updates on things we have going on at BikeWalkKC. We're moving our education programs online, and we encourage you to check out our online events calendar for upcoming events. We are keeping the Ride KC bike program running, and we're providing free rides to local businesses and to healthcare workers. And we're continuing to advocate for safer places to walk and bike, even if it is virtual. And so going forward, we do have some of those virtual events coming up. If you want to check out our website and our calendar, bikewalkkc.org/events. Those are all listed, and we're adding more and more every day. So a few coming up this week. We're doing a Maintain Your Ride Lunch and Learn with the Johnson County Library. That's tomorrow, Tuesday at noon. That will just be a kind of casual, fun hour over the lunch break where we'll give you some demos of some common bike maintenance things. So if you're getting your bike out for the first time in a long time, or you have friends or family that are doing that, this would be a great opportunity to get a little bit of a refresher on things like changing a flat tire, adjusting your brakes, things like that. Also tomorrow, Tuesday, we're doing more of a virtual handlebar happy hour at 4:30, and the topic is going to be route mapping. And we're going to be joined by 4 cyclists from around the region who are going to talk about how do you find what route you want to take if you're looking for a place to get out and get some exercise, or if you are wanting to try biking to the grocery store, or maybe takeout at one of our locally owned restaurants. This is a session for you tomorrow at 4:30 to learn more about how to map out that route. And then this week still, coming up on Thursday, I'm going to be chatting with Amanda Grayer, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, which is the coalition of local governments who do a lot of work on public policy and things around the region. So Amanda is going to be chatting about what does transportation and mobility look like during this pandemic, and what opportunities are there to accelerate innovations going forward in the recovery and eventually life after the pandemic. So that's Thursday at 3 o'clock. And then finally, I mentioned Tour de Beer. We are rescheduling our big fundraiser for BikeWalkKC. Tour de Beer will be on August 9th. Assuming things continue to get better, we will be monitoring the public health situation pretty closely between now and then, and we'll update you as needed. So again, all of those events and other events that we have planned for you, keep an eye out for bikewalkkc.org/events. So just a couple more things, and then we're going to throw it open for questions and answers. And please feel free to ask those questions in the chat box, either in YouTube or in Facebook. You can go ahead and start asking questions, and we'll start answering them here in a couple minutes. But first, just a couple final notes. One, like a lot of nonprofits, we could really use your support in these really trying times. So if you're still able at this point to make any sort of charitable donation, we really appreciate anything you can do. We're also, looking for other support from local businesses and other organizations around the region. So you can find out all the ways you can support us on our website at bikewalkkc.org/get-involved. We've got a lot of options for you. Like I said, if you're able to make a donation, we would really support it. We are in a membership drive this month during May, and we've been really thankful and grateful for everybody who has continued to been able to support us. Something else you can do is help us understand what's going on in the community. We're not able to be out face-to-face the way we'd love to, so we are running a survey right now to find out how things are going for you during the pandemic. And we're going to keep it open one more day through today, but some of the early results I can tell you is we're seeing about almost 60% of the folks in our survey say they are walking and biking more than they normally would. But unfortunately, more than 60% say that they find the sidewalks and trails in their area are crowded. And so it's been a challenge to keep outside and active but socially distanced. And so that's one reason why we really wanted to advocate for an open streets or a slow streets policy. And then 42% of folks say they still feel unsafe biking or walking because of the speed of cars. Even though car traffic has been way down during this pandemic, I think we've all seen speeds are way up. And so the cars that are still on the road are often driving pretty dangerously. And then people also feel unsafe because they don't think there is adequate, safe, comfortable infrastructure. So bike lanes, trails, sidewalks. And so those are the things we advocate for every day, and we continue to. And we're seeing that the current crisis is highlighting the need for safer places to walk and bike even more so. So the survey closes at the end of today. Please take that survey if you have a few minutes. We'd love to hear your thoughts and how things are going for you, especially if you feel unsafe outside, because maybe you have a fear for your personal safety, or you have a fear of policing in your community. There are a lot of barriers to folks walking and biking, and they're not just physical, they're also social and cultural and institutional, and we really want to understand all of those challenges and barriers so we can work to address them. So again, that survey is at bikewalkkc.org/get-involved. Love to have you fill that out and let us know how things are going for you. So with that, we're going to open it up to questions and answers. feel free to add things in the chat box. And the first question I see is from Jennifer, and she's asking, do we have social media posts that are shareable to promote our membership drive? And I believe we are working on that. I think this week we will probably be posting things on our own social media channels about our membership drive, and those would be things that you can easily reshare and repost. So watch out for those, Jennifer, here in the next few days. And we appreciate you sharing that message with your networks and helping us amplify that. Don't be shy, folks. If you have a question, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you have a comment, I would also just be really interested in what you're seeing in your neighborhood. What are your sidewalks like? What are the trails like in your community? We would really like to know where there are problems with crowding so we can work with local governments to maybe address those. Thank you, Jennifer, for another question. Are we hosting lunch and learns for individual companies? Yes, we are doing that. That is something that we have always offered for our business members. That's one of the benefits of being a business member of BikeWalkKC is we have a lot of services we provide, like bike-friendly business audit, ways we can help your office be more bike-friendly. Also, lunch and learns that we can provide to employees on a lot of topics. So one of the popular topics had always been biking to work, which isn't as relevant for a lot of folks right now, but this is also a time where there is a little bit less traffic, where maybe if you're curious about trying to bike to work, you could give it a test run, do a virtual commute one day and see how it goes, map out a route, try out a route, things like that. Also things on like how can the business community help advocate for more livable streets and more livable communities. So get in touch with us. We'd be happy to talk about what might be interesting to your business and your employees and coworkers, and we can come up with a good plan of what a lunch and learn might look like. So I'm seeing a lot of folks watching, which I really appreciate. Not seeing a lot of questions, so maybe I did a good job of covering everything. But we will stay on here for a few more minutes for as long as folks want, and we'll see if you have any other questions. And if there are no other questions, I just would remind you, the link to go to today is bikewalkkc.org/get involved. We will welcome any way you might want to get involved, whether it's taking our survey, donating, or becoming a member if you are able. That really helps us as we start looking at what does mobility and livability and quality of life look like in the recovery. I think a lot of us think and are seeing that it's going to be a long time until things are a lot closer to normal. And we also know for a lot of the folks in our communities and for the issues we advocate for, the old normal wasn't always that great. And so going back to normal isn't something that a lot of people are always keen on. And so we're starting to think more strategically about how can the new normal be a better normal? What do our transportation systems look like? What does our public space look like? I know several communities are starting to think about maybe closing some streets so that we can provide more space for restaurants, for outdoor dining. knowing that it could be a long time before restaurants are able to get back up to full capacity in their dining rooms, and they're really struggling. And we've already seen some examples from Europe and even elsewhere in the US of closing down streets and parking spaces so restaurants can set up more outside tables. And that's something that the Kansas City Council has been really open to, and Mayor Lucas has been a champion of, and has even talked about this is an opportunity to try out some new things in our public space and think about how we can put things back together after this in a better way. A few other questions coming in here. The Women's Bike Summit, our semi-annual KC Women's Bike Summit is currently scheduled for September. For the moment, it's still on the calendar. We usually have 150 or so folks join us for that event, and it's a really good time. But we're monitoring the health situation for all of our events that are in person. We're kind of looking at them 30 days ahead of time to see what's going to happen. So the Women's Bike Summit, for the moment, is still scheduled. It may look a little bit different. The format may change to be more responsive to what's going on. Another question from Sean is the Open Streets Initiative. It's been very popular. And it's been good to be able to bike along the trolley track trail when it's crowded on the side street. But are there any updates on the Walnut open street for downtown residents? I believe the city mentioned Walnut through the Loop and the Crossroads as a possible open street project. I do not have any update on that. We will check with the city, and I think if residents in the downtown area wanted to ask their 4th District City Council members, and if the neighborhood associations in the Crossroads in downtown wanted to ask about that, that would be a really good thing to do. Andy asks, are there any state level efforts in Kansas with the KDOT funding priorities being released as it relates to large projects? I think that maybe is in a reference to Kansas has a brand new 5-year statewide transportation plan rolling out this year. And some of the early announcements have been new projects or highway expansion projects, which are something we generally advocate for preserving our existing systems before we expand and prioritizing alternates and multimodal transportation in addition to highways and cars. I don't know of any updates. BikeWalkKC does work in partnership in Kansas with a lot of groups like Bike Walk Wichita, the Topeka Cycle Project, and others. So we'll have to reach out to our Kansas partners and see if there is any other information we can share with you all. I have a question here about Gilliam Road in Midtown, Kansas City. So for those of you that don't know, last year the city budget for the first time included the line item for Complete Streets demonstration projects as a way to start building some Complete Streets projects to show people what they are and how they might work and give folks an idea of what may be coming with future projects. And so the big first project is Gilliam Road in Midtown. And if you've been in the neighborhood lately, you may have seen that it's currently being repaved. And we know from the folks at City Hall that they are going to take that repaving opportunity to add a Complete Streets demonstration project. I believe it's a short one, but it's an important first step between 31st Street and Armour Boulevard. So it will connect with the Armour Boulevard protected bike lanes, and it will make progress on what we would love to see, which is a high quality, safe connection from downtown to the plaza, and then eventually expanding Armour into a broader east-west corridor that really reaches both the east and west parts of the city. So that project is under construction, and I think we may start seeing some of the bike elements here in the next few weeks on Gilliam. Jim says that in his area there are a lot of people out walking and biking, but unfortunately they aren't following all of the safety rules, like riding with traffic, walking against traffic. What can be shared to explain the safety rules? So we do have some YouTube videos on our website, on our YouTube channel, that talks about bike safety, and we have some other content on our education page on the BikeWalkKC website. Educating all those individuals is a challenge, especially now when we can't do a lot of in-person programming. So I would also encourage folks, again, to check out our virtual programs and hopefully find something that can address this for you. But thank you, Jim. We are always trying to find ways to promote safety in the community. Let's see here. Looking to see if there are any other questions. Just take then a few minutes here to wrap up. Thank you to everybody who's participating. It's been great to see everybody on here, even if we can't see each other in person yet. But keep sharing your questions with us. info@bikewalkkc.org is our general email. Even though our office is closed, all of our team members are still working and available to help. We're really interested in your feedback on how walking and biking can be simple solutions to the challenges we face during the pandemic, but also in the recovery and in the new normal, and how can we make the new normal better for folks who feel unsafe on our streets for whatever reason, who would like to be able to make the healthier choice, the easier choice. So keep that feedback coming for us. And then finally, in closing, just thank you for joining us. Please keep an eye on future virtual programs and events. We really appreciate everybody's support and ideas and engagement. Again, if you're able to make a charitable contribution, we appreciate that. We know a lot of folks aren't able to right now, and that's okay too. Hopefully we will all be here again soon together in person. So until then, please stay involved, please stay safe and healthy, and visit BikeWalkKC.org to keep up with everything we're doing. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Have a great week. Thank you.